Director and Lara from Alternatives, and they're Celebrants in France. So thank you so much for joining me today. We just wanted to get to know you guys and just get a feel for, you know, ceremonies in France and what you do and how you prepare a ceremony. So welcome. Thank you for joining. So
thank you so much.
So Lara, I'll start with you, Lara, because I think you kind of, did you found Alternatives?
No, it was very much a group decision, but I brought it to France, maybe, I think might be the way to put it. So it was a group of 4 friends, 2 couples, and we've worked together in the charity sector and around sort of mental health for a long time, and decided we wanted to do something different, and used all of our skills to sort of bring this together to be around celebrancy, well, really to work around love
and more positivity as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's just, yeah, such a lovely thing to be able to do. We love, all of us, and when we looked at what it was we all love, it was people and love and organising things, and it just really fell into place for us.
Is that the same for you, Samantha? You felt the same?
Definitely, yeah. It just seems to hit all of the right buttons as far as all of us were concerned in terms of our past experience and the things that we really enjoy and love to do.
And obviously taking it to France, Lara, I know you're based in, which area are you in? You're in Normandy?
I am. I'm in Lower Normandy, and I'm right on the sort of the Brittany and the sort of Mayenne border, so I can cover quite a lot of that area in sort of northwest France, and it's an area I fell in love with at a very young age, so it feels like home.
I saw on one of your posts you were describing that it was kind of like a Cinderella story. Can you just enhance a little bit more about how you guys kind of felt that this was like a fairy tale?
Well, it's so I first came to France when I was 11, and it's where I fell in love with the country, and the countryside and the language and everything to do with it.
It's a love affair.
It was a complete love affair. And at 11 years old, I cried when I left, and I returned to France, to this part of France as well, almost every year, and there was a lovely part of Brittany that I fell in love with particularly, and I decided that if I ever got married, that's where I would get married. And I brought my now husband and introduced him to this area, and our children grew up, and I watched them grow up. Every summer they learnt to swim here. They used to go and get the bread, and they had this wonderful relationship with France. But I didn't actually move here until a couple of years ago. And by then I'd got married here, and just decided that. So it's my anniversary very soon. It'll be my 8th wedding anniversary, although we've been together for 25 years, and he's the other part of the love story, really. So I brought the man that I love to the place that I love, and we got married on the cliffs here. Oh. And we had just this beautiful, amazing, and totally different. I mean, it wasn't just outside of the box. The box was thrown up and, you know, thrown away. And we had this amazing ceremony on the cliffs. And it's also where I realised how difficult it was actually to get married in France, when in an area where there wasn't a huge amount happening. And was quite inspirational as to where we decided that we wanted to celebrate love. So in the place that I love, so really everything's come together for me here.
The first time I went to France was Normandy, and my son was only a baby, and we went all around. My favourite place was Honfleur.
Oh, it's lovely.
How nice is that? And that was before I even decided to actually live in France. You know, it hadn't even come into my mind yet. I just kind of had this little first holiday, and then of course then I ended up moving and living in the southwest. But it was a beautiful part, and that, you know, I know they do the film festivals and stuff there as well. So a great place to be. And how many couples do you tend to get through a year? Like, is it quite a busy area? Do you find that it gets busy in Normandy for weddings?
Do you want me to answer that one?
Go for it.
So this is only our second year,
Right, okay.
and it would have been our very, very busiest year. In fact, we were getting to the place where I think we were going to have to start turning some weekends down, but
Down with
because it's been
coronavirus.
2020. However, it's an area I think that's quite underdeveloped for the wedding industry. There are some of the most beautiful venues here. The countryside is spectacular. It's really easy for people to get to. I mean, like you say, it's just on the other side, of the channel, and you've got airports as well as ports and trains, so it's very, very easy. And it just always struck me as quite strange that this wasn't a huge destination wedding place. So part of our mission really as an organisation is to really sell this area and to show people that you can have everything that is spectacular in a beautiful, especially a beautiful personal wedding here in one of the most beautiful places it's my favourite place on earth. But also because it's undiscovered, it usually can get quite a good deal on things, and you still get the amazing cheese and the amazing wine and everything that you love France for. So I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. I also think that this is going to be the up-and-coming wedding destination, especially as people become more conscious of
going too far, or
going too far, that people are starting to think much more about those very, very personal, very special weddings that are around those people, just those people that they love and that love them.
So tell me a bit about Celebrancy Plus offer that you've got going at the moment.
Okay, so we wanted to offer a bit more than just Celebrancy. So Celebrancy Plus came out of that, and really it was that some of that came about after my own daughter's wedding a couple of years ago. She did a DIY wedding in a venue in the UK, but still with lots of cottages where everyone could stay for a couple of days, which was lovely. But I ended up running around quite a lot trying to make sure everything was exactly as she wanted it to be. And so one of the realizations we had was that often people want to do quite a lot of the planning themselves, but on the day you want to be able to let go of all of that and let someone else just take the strain for you. And you don't really want that to be one of your guests.
I completely agree with you there. I used to do the hairstyling at the weddings, and it was so hard to kind of get the bridal party to sit and enjoy themselves when the bride was going off panicking about getting something done on her list. And I used to try and say, can you say anyone you can delegate it to so you can just relax and enjoy that morning, have a glass of champagne, get your hair done. So are you kind of offering like a coordinator role?
Yes, exactly. So that we can do various things. It depends on what people want really, but absolutely on the day we can be the people on the ground making sure that everything's as they want it to be, so that everything goes smoothly. The other things that we can do are identifying suppliers, venues if they haven't got a venue in mind, so that we can do some of the legwork, particularly if they're based in the UK, and of course we've got people based in France, so they're kind of on the ground and they can go and have a look at venues or florists or caterers and do some of that groundwork for them, so that our brides and grooms have some options to think about based on what we've been able to find for them. So,
and it's quite nice that you, obviously Lara, you're in France and you're based in the UK. If you have got a couple coming from the UK, if they are coming out to France, obviously they can visit Lara, but if they're struggling to get out prior to the wedding, that they can have a chat with you so you can run through it. Is that something that you offer as well?
Exactly, yes, that's absolutely right, yes. So we want them to feel really confident about us, so that whether that's with us in the UK or with us in France, we want them to know that come the day, we have it all in hand and they don't need to worry about anything. They can get up in the morning and know that they can relax and everything is in hand for them.
So with regards to the ceremony itself, what kind of information do you kind of have a chat with the couples about? What kind of ceremony do you like to offer? Is it, obviously it's very personal and intimate, but what kind of procedure do you follow to kind of get everything out of them as you can? Do you do a lot of Zoom meetings yourself with everybody? Do you kind of have one-to-one? What was your kind of way that you create the ceremony itself?
Well, it's about getting to know people, because we start every ceremony with a blank sheet of paper, and so we really need to know what it is that we can do that makes that representative of that couple. So we try to get to know them really well. So it may be Zoom, it may be a face-to-face meeting, but also we've got questionnaires, and we've got some things that really try to help people come out of themselves and tell us exactly what they want. They're the stars of this show, so we want them to shine, and we want to find out exactly what it is. And we build up a very, very strong relationship with the couples. It's been one of the heartbreaks of this year, is that I feel like these are my friends. No. And I'm speaking to them about having to cancel a wedding, and I'm saying, well, how does your mum feel about that? Because I know she was really looking forward to this. Or, oh, isn't it going to be difficult if you're doing it at a different time of year, because I know that you love peonies and that's why you were getting married at that time. So I feel like these are people I've known all my life, and if I don't feel like that, I don't think I can give them the ceremony that they deserve. Yeah. And we try to make it absolutely them. I want them to walk away at the end and think, there will never be another ceremony like that, because that was just us. Yeah. And that's everything we want it to be. We can incorporate all sorts of things into that. So whether that's other members of the family, or we do ring warming, and we do hand fasting, and we do all kinds of those ceremonies or parts of ceremonies that are about binding people together, about starting new lives. Yeah. And I think that's really important. But it's always what's right for that couple, and we can change them. So we've done wedding bingo, and we've done gin and tonic ceremonies, and I've just bought some glassware because we're going to do a sand ceremony for people who come from 2 seaside towns. So they're going to blend the sands of their hometowns together, and a rose ceremony to say thank you to their families that have accepted them and have brought them together as a family. So we try and find the things that mean a lot to people, and so that their promise is absolutely individual and personal to them, and that there'll never be another ceremony like that again. It's totally unique and special.
I loved when we used to call them fusion weddings, where you would have completely different cultures getting together. So I remember having a Vietnamese bride who was marrying a Canadian groom, and they had a tea party ceremony just before their proper ceremony, and the colours they were wearing, and they keep getting changed. I keep changing hairstyles and things like that. But how do you kind of bring in, like with a lot of international clients coming to France, do you kind of do ceremonies to kind of blend in the cultures as well as just the normal, obviously, couple as well? So bringing the families together, but just bringing, everybody's culture together.
Yeah. Go on, Sam, I was going to say.
Yeah, absolutely. We will do whatever works for the couple concerned, So if that means that we want elements of a particular, maybe, they want elements of a particular religious ceremony that we could bring in, or it may be, there are particular ways that they do things in their culture, and we can add that in. Yeah. And that's what makes it so beautiful with a celebrant, because you can use whatever elements you want to, and it becomes completely your own personal ceremony.
But bespoke, really, isn't it? Kind of tailored to them, and that's what makes it so personal.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think it comes across from both of you, that you just actually you love doing it so much, but it's like it really comes from the heart, and I love that about you guys. I think it's like, like your Cinderella love stories, and the way you go forward, and just, yeah, is that what you kind of try to get across as well within the ceremonies?
Definitely, it's absolutely part of what we do. At the heart of everything is their love story. That's what's really important. That's what we want to tell. We want to remind everyone that that's what this is all about. This big day has been arranged because two people fell in love and they want to share that with everybody.
Yeah, and when obviously one of the things that I know couples do get concerned about is obviously the legalities of getting married in France, and you know, there's a lot of red tape and it can take a long time and a lot of cutting corners, and I know you normally kind of have to reside in France first. So really, even though they're not actually doing the legal side, it will still be a ceremony sharing their love with their guests and then going on and still having it. So it so really feels like their wedding day. It doesn't, apart from the fact that that signature isn't done, you know, do you get a lot of couples that worry about not having that real feeling? I mean, I know, you know, like families and stuff, and I think you said before that, you know, some people don't feel like it's the real thing, but from my experience and from being at the weddings myself, they really do, don't they? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think you only have to think about a time that you've been to a wedding in the UK where the ceremony itself might be in a church. You probably don't even see that signature, and it's certainly not an important thing. But I can speak about this personally because I got married in France, and as far as I'm concerned, I got married in Brittany. But 4 days before I had that ceremony, I went to a registry office in the UK, in Hertfordshire, and signed a piece of paper. It was just me, my husband, and our two grown-up sons. They were our witnesses. Nobody else came. We didn't have any music. We didn't have any flowers. We wore a nice suit, and we signed some paperwork. And that was on the 14th of August. And I don't celebrate that as my anniversary. My anniversary is on the 18th of August, because on the 18th of August, the people that I love most in the world were surrounding me while I made a personal promise to the man that I love most in the world. And that's my wedding anniversary. Yeah. And there is no point in my mind that thinks that that isn't the day that I got married, because that's the day I made the promise.
And you'll be travelling out as well, Samantha, to France for these weddings?
I will, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've made that commitment that whenever we've got any weddings that need all of us to be there, we will all be there. Absolutely.
You know, it's such a hard life, isn't it? I'll have to go to France.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, that is just, yeah, it's amazing, and thank you guys for sharing some of that with us, and just to get a feel for you. Can you tell me or share any funny stories of a wedding that you've done that, you know, has really stuck in your mind?
Yeah, I think I might do my Brittany wedding. It's funny, but only because it's not what anyone expected to happen. So it was my smallest, well, we do vow renewals, and we've done some elopement vow renewals, so they're the smallest, and they're extremely beautiful, and we love doing them, and particularly for an American audience as well, because Normandy has a lot of history with an American audience because of D-Day, and so there's something very poignant for Americans, I think, to be able to come to Northern France and to honour their family at the same time as they're honouring their family now. So, but for weddings, it's my smallest wedding. It was 10 people, including the bride and groom, and it was in the bride's parents' garden, because so mum and dad live here. He's Australian, and they weren't planning on getting married that time, but his dad was coming from Australia, and they said, well, we might not get another opportunity where we're all together. So it was a very, very short turnaround wedding as well, so normally I have ages and ages, but I think I had about 4 months. And I loved this couple from the minute I spoke to them. They were so up for anything. They were so very different. They were very, very relaxed, but they knew who they were. And so we wrote a ceremony, and I really cared about it a lot, and I sent them the draft of the ceremony thinking, I really want you to love this, because people can rewrite their ceremony as many times as they need. It's their ceremony.
Yeah.
So, but I just thought, I think I've got this right. And she came back, and she's probably not someone who cries a lot. And she was really tearful and just said, that's you've captured us. That's it. So I was really looking forward to it. And when I got there, I met both of the fathers, father of the bride and father of the groom. And they said, oh, we don't really understand why we're having this. They got married in a registry office, and this comes back to what we were talking about earlier. And we don't really get why we're going to do this ceremony, but get on with it then. And the groom's dad is a sheep farmer in Australia, and he is Crocodile Dundee. He was like, oh, I don't get married. I don't believe in all that lovey-dovey stuff. So we, instead of having rows, because it was 10 people, we had a circle. And the bride came with both her parents to the edge of the circle, and the groom met her at the circle. And we did a ring warming before the ring came. So because there were so few people, we could do it out loud. And I held the ring to start, and I wished them enough. And I handed the ring on, and everyone in turn said their wishes for the couple's future out loud. And as everyone started, everyone cried. And by the time I got back, there were 10 people, 11 people, 10 people crying, including this great big... And we had to just take a moment just for Crocodile Dundee to stop crying, and for all of the people in the circle to stop crying, so we could move on with the ceremony. And it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever been involved in my life, but that wasn't in the script that we would get that. Anyway, so we finished up with the ceremony, and I have agreed to go out to Australia and do Crocodile Dundee's wedding in a few years' time. So
that's fantastic.
So I convinced him to get married, and his girlfriend's delighted. So
how do you guys, if everyone's getting emotional and you get so invested in your couples, it must be so hard to do that without kind of, excuse me, I'd be a wreck. It must be quite hard to keep going. Obviously you're professional, so you do, but do you feel quite emotional when you do these weddings?
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things. We've got plenty of time to perfect the ceremony, because we've gone back and forward with our customers, obviously our clients. Sorry, we tend to practice quite a lot beforehand to make sure we've got it off pat. So and we'll practice with each other as well. So we'll let the tears come then, so that hopefully when we actually get to the day, we'll be quite well controlled with a little bit of emotion. I think it's really lovely to have a little bit of emotion there, though, because it is such a beautiful thing to be part of. So
exactly, and it's quite raw then, isn't it? It's quite,
exactly.
It's what it's
obviously you don't want your celebrant sobbing in the corner, but with a little bit of emotion, I think really just adds to it all. If everyone, particularly in small groups there where everyone's feeling that emotion, it's nice to kind of be able to be free to express that emotion to some degree.
And I don't want to put a whole coronavirus vibe on any of today, because everything's so positive and wonderful, but there are a lot of brides that are worried now about social distancing and how many people they're allowed at the ceremonies and things like that. Can you kind of give any advice to or what the changes are currently at the moment? Are you kind of having to keep people seated separately for the ceremony, and what can you kind of recommend or suggest that you do that makes them feel a bit safer about having a ceremony?
Well, one of the things that we particularly specialise in is the ultra personal, and that does tend to be a smaller group of people anyway. It's not all of our weddings, but that is the thing that we love doing, because then everybody there is invested in you. So the idea that people are sort of scaling back or having to downsize their wedding is horrible to us, because you don't downsize your wedding, but what you can do is personalize it. Instead of having an enormous group, you can have a smaller group of people who are people that will always be in your life. It actually changes the way the wedding feels, and not for the worse, absolutely for the better. but also we love doing weddings outside, which makes it much easier. And we'll work with each couple and what they want to find a solution that means that they feel safe on their day, that everyone can enjoy it, and that it will be memorable for every other reason than COVID.
Exactly.
You'll never look at your photo and think, I had a COVID wedding. You'll look at your photos and think, I had the most beautiful wedding that anyone's ever had.
Yeah.
And
that's good.
That's the win. And there is no need for COVID to take that away from you. And we won't let it.
Perfect. And obviously it depends on the venues and seating and stuff like that. But like you said, it's a slightly smaller number of people and they're all kind of your real close friends and family. You know, when you can start counting your favourites on your hands. It is perfect to have a nice intimate wedding like that, especially the ceremony and then obviously going forward. But thank you for just touching base on that, because I just think it's something that couples are thinking about for next year and worrying about. But let them know, even if they do have to have a slightly smaller number, that they're still going to get an amazing beautiful ceremony.
And with a slightly smaller number, it often means you could all be in the same venue together.
Yeah.
So you are within your bubble, but what venues, you know, what amazing venues you could be in that bubble with. There are some good reasons to get married right now.
And last but not least, just want to finish off, and can someone just tell me what the gin ceremony is? The gin ceremony.
Well, more traditionally, there's been a ceremony which is about two different sorts of wine. So usually red and white wine, and the bride and the groom pour it into one glass. So you get a rosé out of it. Although some would say that's a heathen thing to do. However, if your taste runs to gin and tonic, then what we can do is arrange for one part of the couple to put the gin in the glass and the other to put the tonic in, and then they can both drink it afterwards. And
it's kind of like blending together the relationship, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's some significance about that, bringing those two things together.
And I think gin and tonic work better than wine on that. I mean, apart from the fact that I like wine, and that mixing red and white wines isn't always the best thing, but there is something very French about it. Gin and tonic on their own, neither of them are the best tasting thing.
But together,
but put them together, they take on a whole new meaning, and they'll never be the same again. And I think that's very much like a wedding.
I put ice in my wine. I think that should kill me. Yeah, it's a really good take on it. Well, thank you both for joining me and for sharing in your amazing business. And you can find out a bit more about alternators at the site at www.bridesin.com in France, and you can find them under Celebrants. And there's a contact form at the bottom of the page, which will they'll be able to email you directly and go straight through and check your availability for next year. Have you got spaces for next year still?
We are waiting on a few people who are postponing for a couple of weekends there, and we've got new people starting to come in. So as quick as you can, but we do have some space, and we are a team. I think that's the other thing we can really offer, that there's a team. Although you're seeing two of us, there's another celebrant, and we also have a technical expert who is an ex-rocket scientist, and my husband, and so he can sort some of those technical difficulties out to make sure that you can be heard, that you've got really good sound quality, or that if you need something built because you want something very specific at your wedding, he can do that too. So we are a team. So although we're booking up quickly, we are lucky enough that there's more than just one of us.
Well, it sounds like you're adding to their story, so it's brilliant. Well, thank you guys so much. Really lovely chatting with you. And get booking of alternatives now.
Yes, please.